بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. In the previous lesson we finished hadith number 5. We took a number of things. Awab, what's the bid'ah? Now something new which has not been invented before. That's linguistically, Islamically. What are the 4 things? Wasn't done before, not evidence. Attributed to religion. There was a need and no preventative. And Prophet ﷺ still didn't do it. Good. Right. If you are going to memorize a definition, memorize Shatibi's definition. Okay, that's a very, very famous definition. So if you want to memorize the definition, memorize Shatibi's definition. Okay. What are the types of bid'ah from the angle of its origin? Haider. Okay, what's that called? Bid'ah haqiqiyya, good. Altered, very good. That's called that's called bid'ah. Idafiyya, very good. Bid'ah from the angle of his ruling, Samir. Bid'ah mukaffara takes out full Islam. غير مكفرة نعم. What are the 6 ways somebody can fall into bid'ah? Ya Musa. Yeah. Right, you don't have a clue. Nuh. The reason, the sabab? Time. Type, okay. Amount, time and place and how. Good. What's the difference between a bid'ah and masalih al-mursalah? Now they come under the general objectives and adillah of the Sharia, and it's in the means, not in acts of worship. Give me an example. Yes. Madaris, good. Give me another example. Lessons in the masjid. The person will gather in the masjid. Give me another one. Compiling the Quran, for example. Now, Musa, I'm picking on you till you get something right. What are some of the means for bid'ah spreading? Whether the reasons for origin of bid'ah or is spreading, any of the two. Al-Jahl bis-Sunnah, ignorance of the Sunnah. Haider, give me another one. Following the desires. Some reasons why bid'ah originated or why it spread. Don't know. Man. Good. Silence of scholars, Allah Barak, very good. Give me another one. Following mutashabih. Give me another one. Sorry? Arrogance? Yeah, but I can come on the following desires generally. But yeah, it could be. Huh? Give me another one. Sorry? Ignorance. Okay, that's a general one. Okay, but yeah, fine. Give me a way how we can save ourselves from falling into innovation. Practice the sunnah to call to it. Haider, give me another one. Cling on to the Quran and Sunnah. Musa, give me another one. Give people alternatives, good, from the Sunnah. Give me another one. He's okay. Applying the Sunnah individually or collectively in societies. No, okay, that's fine. What were the 5 main issues, foundational issues where bid'ah took place? Sami, give me one. Names, attributes of Allah. Musa, give me another one. Qadr. Nuh. Companions, good. 2 left. Companions, that comes in there. 3 and 4 you're missing out. So one is the ruling of the person in this dunya, and the other is the ruling of him in the akhirah. No. What were the 5 principles that Ahl Sunnah give a lot of importance to? Abdul Rahim. Give me one. That was the last lesson, yeah. You don't call up. Haider? Yeah, the 5 principles Ahl Sunnah give a lot of importance to, Ahl Bid'ah don't. No, not how we deal with Ahl Bid'ah, no. 5 issues, 5 concepts, 5 things that we give importance to, that we talk about and we give da'wah to, that they don't. The Sunnah, good. And refuting that which opposes it. Another one? Tawheed, and one from shirk. Nuh. The Madhab of Ahl Sunnah regarding the Sahaba. The Madhab of Ahl Sunnah regarding the rulers. And then finally, it was refuting Ahl Bid'ah. No. Okay, khalas. That's a few things I missed out, but we'll suffice with that, inshallah. Right. Hadith number 6. Now I've sent one document which has hadith number 6 all the way to 10. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That inshallah should suffice us for this week and also next week as well. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So put your hand up if you memorized. Hadith number 6. Go on, man. Bismillah. Carry on, Musa. Carry on, Nuh. يوشك أن يرتاع فيه. Right, okay. So this hadith number 6. As you can see from the title, hadith number 6 is the title that I put here. The halal is clear and the haram is clear, and between them are ambiguous matters. Now, we'll read the hadith in Arabic quickly. It says, عن أبي عبد الله النعمان ابن بشير رضي الله عنهما قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إن الحلال بين وإن الحرام بين وبينهما مشتبهات لا يعلمهن كثير من الناس. In the worksheet it says أمور, but in Shaykh Qasim's print that's not there. فمن اتقى الشبهات استبرأ لدينه وعرضه ومن وقع في الشبهات وقع في الحرام كالراعي يرعى حول الحمى يوشك أن يرتع فيه ألا وإن لكل ملك حمى ألا وإن حمى الله محارمه ألا وإن في الجسد مضغة إذا صلحت, you can say صلحت and you can say صلوحت with the ضم and the lam. إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله or وإذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله وإذا فسدت فسد الجسد كله ألا وهي القلب رواه البخاري ومسلم. In English, on the authority of Nu'man ibn Bashir radiallahu anhuma, who said, I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say, that which is lawful is clear and that which is unlawful is clear. And between the two of them are ambiguous matters about which many people do not know. Thus, he who avoids ambiguous matters clears himself in regards to his religion and his honor, but he who falls into ambiguous matters falls into that which is unlawful, like the shepherd who pastures around the sanctuary, meaning the shepherd who takes his flock on the edge of his boundary, all but grazing therein. Truly, every king has a sanctuary, and truly Allah's sanctuary is his prohibitions. Truly, in the body there is a morsel of flesh, which if it be rectified, all the body is rectified, and which if it is corrupted, all of the body is corrupted. Truly, it is the heart. Narrated by Bukhari and Muslim. So this is hadith number 6. It's a bit of a long hadith, but inshallah we can take the whole hadith in today's lesson bi'iznillahi ta'ala. So the first thing is the takhrij of the hadith. The hadith is muttafaqun alayh, narrated by Bukhari and Muslim. In Bukhari, hadith number 2051, and Muslim 1599. Bukhari 2051 and Muslim 1599. As for the hadith benefits, then this is the wording of Sahih Muslim. That's the wording of Sahih Muslim. As for the status of the hadith, then Imam Al-Nawawiyyah rahimahullah, he said, أجمع العلماء على عظم واقع هذا الحديث وكثرة فوائده. The scholars have agreed upon the tremendous status or place of this hadith and the abundant benefits. وأنه أحد الأحاديث التي عليها مدار الإسلام, and that it is one of the ahadith that Islam revolves around. And Ibn Daqiq al-Eid, he said, هذا الحديث أصل عظيم من أصول الشريعة. This hadith is a great foundation from the foundations of this Sharia. And then I mentioned a statement of Imam Ahmad, which we mentioned before in the previous hadith already. Now, as for the narrator of this hadith, the narrator of this hadith, his name is Al-Nu'man ibn Bashir al-Ansari. Al-Nu'man ibn Bashir al-Ansari al-Khazraji. Because there are two main tribes, Al-Aws, and the second is Al-Khazraj. He is from Al-Khazraj. And his kunya was Abu Abdullah. His kunya was Abu Abdullah. Now him and his father were both Sahaba. Him and his father were both Sahaba. And he was the first newborn to be born from the Ansar after Hijrah. After the Prophet ﷺ did Hijrah, the first baby to be born was An-Nu'man ibn Bashir. And his mother was the sister of Abdullah ibn Rawaha. And his mother was the sister of Abdullah ibn Rawaha radiallahu anhu, a very famous companion. Now when Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan was the Amir, he was in charge of Kufa. And Nu'man ibn Bashir was placed in charge of Kufa. And he passed away in the year 65 after Hijrah. He passed away in the year 65 after Hijrah. Now, there's an issue, which is that he is from the younger companions. Because as you can see, he was born after Hijrah. So he was about 10 years old when the Prophet ﷺ passed away. So he's from the younger companions. That means if he was 10 or less when the Prophet ﷺ passed away, that means he must have heard this hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, because he said, Sami'tu, I heard. So he directly heard it from the Prophet ﷺ. He didn't hear it from anybody else. He heard it when he was a kid, before reaching the age of puberty. And from the conditions to accept hadith, and what comes under being trustworthy, even though we didn't mention this, when we talked about Mustalah hadith, we just mentioned trustworthy, two main things. What are the two main things? When somebody is adil, he stays away from major sins and is not persistent upon minor sins, he has taqwa. And number two is, he has muru'ah. There's more conditions as well, I didn't mention them, but the other ones are clear, right? You have to be a Muslim, he has to have aqil, right? But from them is that he has to be baligh. He has to have reached the age of puberty. So therefore, how can we accept this hadith if he narrated this hadith? How can we accept this hadith if when he heard this hadith from Prophet ﷺ, he had not reached the age of puberty? Sorry? Very good. He heard it when he wasn't baligh, but when he narrated it, he was. So there's two things. We have something called at-tahammul. At-tahammul is when you hear the hadith. And then you have al-ada. Al-ada is when you are narrating the hadith. These conditions are conditions when you are doing ada, when you're narrating the hadith. As for when you hear the hadith, then no, that's not a condition. For example, you'll find some who are non-Muslims when they heard the hadith, or when something happened, and then they narrated it after accepting Islam. Like Jubayr ibn Mut'im radiallahu anhu. When he heard the ayat from Surah Najm, أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ, Surah Tur. Are people created from nothing, or did they create themselves, and so on. He said, when I heard this is the first time Islam hit my heart. In one narration, my heart felt like flying. Right? This was when he was not a non-Muslim. But he narrated this hadith when? After accepting Islam. Likewise, Ibn Abbas, he was young. When the Prophet passed away, he was only about 13. So, even if they have heard the hadith when they were young, what is looked at is when they're narrating it. Because when they're narrating it, that's what matters. Because the reason these are conditions is so that there's no mistake made. So if he's over the age of puberty now and he says he heard these exact words, then khas, we trust him and we accept it. If he says, I can't remember exactly what I heard, but he'll mention it because he's trustworthy. So that is in regards to that issue. Now, what's the general meaning of hadith? Now, this hadith talks about three main things. Firstly, that the halal is clear, and then the haram is clear, and then number three, there are some grey areas, some ambiguous issues. Issues which are unclear, and how do we deal with them? And how do we deal with them? And then it tells us to stay away from doubtful matters. And then finally, it also gives an indication towards the importance of looking after the heart. The importance of looking after the heart. Now, if you want to give it one title under a concept for this hadith, then we can call it al-wara'. As you can see, I've written it here in your notes. Al-wara'. Now, what is al-wara'? Al-wara', it says here, the definition given here in your notes, it says, leaving off that which is permissible out of fear of falling into that which is impermissible. Leaving off that which is permissible out of fear of falling into that which is impermissible. Meaning, there may be something which is permissible, but you know by you doing it, it might cause you to fall into something which is haram later on. So if you have wara', like taqwa and like other things, right? It's that similar concept like that. If you have wara', then even if that thing is halal, you will leave it off. Why? Out of fear that you might fall into something impermissible. Whether the way you do it, or if you do it too much, it's going to cause you to do something worse. Whatever, depending on the issue, you stay away from that which is halal out of fear of falling into that which is haram. Now, there's another word which is very close to al-wara', which is az-zuhd, which you might have heard before, az-zuhd. What's the difference between al-wara' and az-zuhd? And I've written for you the difference over here in your notes. Al-wara' is leaving off that which harms you in the hereafter. Whereas az-zuhd is leaving off that which does not benefit you in the hereafter. Huh? You're confused? Al-wara' is leaving off that which harms you in the hereafter, and zuhud is leaving off that which does not benefit you in the hereafter. A very, very precise difference between the two. Very, very small difference. Wara' is leaving off something which harms you. Okay? I'll give you an example. Yusuf, right? Give me something that will harm you. Have something physical that's normal. A knife. Alright. So you leave it off so it doesn't harm you later on. Now give me something that you do that doesn't benefit you. It's not harming you, but it's just there's no benefit out of it. Talking. Yeah? Inshallah. That which is halal, but just talking. Right? That doesn't benefit you. Is it haram? No, as long as you don't do anything haram. But it's still wasting your time, right? Okay. So, leaving off that which is haram is one thing. But then leaving off things which is not haram, it's not benefiting you, it's not harming you, right? However, it's just wasting your time. So you think to yourself, look, I'm not getting closer to Allah by doing this. So you leave off that thing as well. That's a higher level than the wara'. So which one's higher, wara' or zuhd? Zuhd is higher. Wara' is leaving off that which harms you in the hereafter, but zuhd is leaving off that which does not benefit you. By you doing it, you're not getting sin. It's not going to lead you to sin, but there's no benefit. After an hour, there's nothing up, nothing's changed. Right? You've not got closer to Allah. Nor have you gone further, but you're at such a level you don't want to waste any time. Because you know your time is limited. Because as we know, after you pass away, we'll be asking Allah to allow us to come just to sajda one more time. Or just to give sadaqah one more time. Right? So you understand that. So you don't waste any time. So if a person has zuhud, then you leave off that which is not even benefiting you in the akhirah. And obviously if you're at that level, then obviously you're going to stay away from things which are haram and that which are going to harm you in the hereafter. And that's what many of the Salaf, they've got books like Imam Ahmad and Ibn Mubarak and others, titled Az-Zuhd. Titled Az-Zuhd. Now back to the topic of wara'. Sufyan al-Thawri, he said, I have not seen anything easier than al-wara'. Every time I doubt something, I leave it. And so, even though, yes, practically it's easier said than done, but the concept of it is quite easy. Al-wara' is leaving of that which harms you. So, literally, you have to do anything. There is something sin at the end of the room. You just sit here, you just don't get up. To do the sin, you have to actually get up and walk, and you got to do something. So, al-wara', in essence, is actually very, very easy for a person to do. Now, got some difficult words. Now, I was meant to do this for every hadith, but I've not done it for every hadith, just for some. But it's here in the notes right now, so we'll do it inshallah. Halal, straightforward, means permissible, right? Bayyin means clear. From the word mubin, bayanun. Yeah, you might hear the word mubin, yani clear. Haram, impermissible. Somebody asked me a question yesterday about something, and they said, is it just not allowed or is it haram? Like, same thing. Yeah. Mushtabihat means ambiguous matters, or sometimes they translate it as grey areas. Right? It's similar to al-mutashabih. Similar to that. That's why in end of in the 7th juz, what's the ayah? I'm gonna get this mixed up. But one ayah says متشابه وغير متشابه, and the other ayah in the 8th juz says مشتبه وغير متشابه. So it's the same ayah, but they just swap the two words. One is mutashabih, one is mushtabih. But it's also the same meaning. Ittaqa, from the word taqwa, to stay away from something. Istabra'a means to seek to be saved or free from something. Al-ird, ird is honor. Ird, ayn, ra, dad. Hima is like a boundary or territory, or I think in the translation here there was sanctuary. Yushik يعني يقترب, to go close. Those on the Arabic is from أفعال المقاربة. Medina Book 2 students is a type of from the akhwat of Ghana. Yarta' means yar'a, to graze. Mudghah, we've taken mudghah. What's mudghah? Morsel of flesh. Okay, now we take the actual hadith. Now, Prophet ﷺ said, "Inna al-halal bayyin," the lawful is clear. Wa inna al-haram bayyin, and that which is haram, impermissible, is clear. Wa baynahuha umurun mushtabihat, and between them are doubtful or ambiguous matters. Who can give me an example of things which are clearly halal? Huh? Eating food. Drinking water. What else? Huh? Talking. Going to class. Well, recommended more than anything. Right? It's a difficult question or it's an easy question because the asl, the foundation ruling is everything is halal until proven haram, outside of worship. Yeah, wearing glasses, leaning against the wall. In fact, that's makruh in class, but okay. Right? Khlas, that's easy. And what are things which are clearly haram? Alcohol, zina, riba, and so on. Right? And give me an example of ambiguous matters. Okay, could be. What else? These are all the other issues. Issues of scholars differ. You don't know the answer. All these things are considered mushtabihat. So therefore, what do mushtabihat mean? It generally refers to things which are unclear or the grey areas, ambiguous and so on. I'm going to give an exact definition shortly. Okay? But that's just a general meaning to it. Right? For example, does a woman have to give zakah on jewelry? She's got gold but jewelry. Is saying basmalah an obligation of wudu or not? The majority say sunnah and Hanabila say it's wajib, obligatory. If you forget, it's okay. Things like that. Things which are a bit more, it requires research and so on and so on. These are what we consider mushtabihat. Now, it's very important before I explain the meaning of it. It says here, there is no mushtabih mutlaq, unrestricted, ambiguous matter in the religion. But rather, it is all subjective. Meaning, everything has an answer in the religion. Everything has an answer in the religion. But the issue is in our knowledge. So therefore, something could be ambiguous or mushtabih according to one person, but not according to another because he studied. right? And if any time there's an issue which is difficult, then that's subjected to that person. Otherwise, the religion has given an answer, but the issue is deficiency in our knowledge. So that's something very important to point out. Now, what are the meanings what are the definitions of mushtabihat given by the scholars? I'm going to mention 3 opinions which are mentioned by the scholars, and all 3 have been mentioned by Imam Ahmad. And Imam Ahmad, when he was give the tafsir of mushtabihat, he gave all 3. And there's others that mention them as well. But one common name is Imam Ahmad, he gave all 3. Right? The first meaning of mushtabihat, ما اختلف العلماء في حله وحرمته. What the scholars differed in regards to it being halal or haram. So if some scholars said it's halal and some scholars said it's haram, then it's considered mushtabih, or from the mushtabihat. Number 2, Imam Ahmad also said that it's a station between halal and haram. So it's not fully halal, it's not halal, it's not haram, it's like in the middle. It's like a new level. And then number 3, ما اختلط فيه الحلال والحرام. Something where halal and haram is mixed together. And parts of it is halal and other parts of it is haram. And that could be anything. You go shopping's halal, but then maybe the area where it is music or there's women, whatever the case may be. So it's halal and haram. And things like that, okay? Now, obviously, in the first part of the hadith, that which is halal, or that which is halal is clear. What do? You can perform the halal actions. That which is haram, what's obligatory, is to stay away from it. But that which is ambiguous, what's the ruling? The hadith gives the next part of the hadith. Later we're going to come, is whoever stays away from these things has protected his honor and his religion. So generally, when it comes to ambiguous matters, we need to stay away from them. That's the ruling in this hadith. Before we get to that sentence though, there is an issue regarding the third opinion that Imam Ahmad, or the third tafsir that Imam Ahmad give. Something which is mixed with halal and haram. And a common question a lot regarding halal or haram money, if it comes to you, is it allowed to take it, is it not allowed to take it? Right? So that's why the next issue is, how do we deal with money which is halal and haram? And there's a mixture between halal and haram. Imam Ahmad. Yeah, Ibn Rajab mentions it as well, and he quotes Imam Ahmad. And he mentions Imam Ahmad mentions it. No. So we have 5 scenarios in regards to dealing with money which is haram and halal. The first scenario is straightforward. All the money is halal. You know, right? Somebody's giving you some money and he only deals with halal. Khalas, there's no problem, you can take that money. Even though that's very difficult in our times, but no. And the second scenario is the opposite. Everything is haram. There's no doubt. Every single penny is 100% haram that's been given to you. Then, by ijma' it's not allowed. Okay? And these are straightforward. The issue is in the next 2. One is, then the third one now, al-halalu akthar. The majority of the money is halal. Majority of the money is halal, and there might be a few things here and there that might be haram. So let's say somebody's made money, and is a good brother and everything, and that all his money is, or majority of his money is halal. There might be a couple of things here and there, might be an issue. In that scenario, no problem, you can take that money. The actual problematic one is the next one. Haram money is more. So it's not all haram, but it's most. Most al-haramu akthar. The haram is more. Now this issue, Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, there's 4 riwayat, there's 4 opinions that he's mentioned. Ibn Muflih mentioned them in his book Al-Furu'. However, the 2 most important opinions regarding this is, according to this hadith, al-wara'. You stay away from it. It's best to stay away from it. It's best to stay away from it. And the second opinion, which is similar, but it seems to be stronger, is that it's makruh. It is makruh. Disliked. And this is also the opinion of the Shafi'iyah and the Malikiyah as well. So it's an opinion of Imam Ahmad, statement of the Malikiyah and the Shafi'iyah as well. Now, the dalil for this is that when a Jewish man or a Jewish woman hosted the Prophet ﷺ, she gave him food, right? And the Prophet ﷺ ate that food and he took it, even though the Jews akaluna lis-suht, they would, like on the Sabbath, the things that they would do, where they would do things which are considered haram in their religion and so on. But nonetheless, the Prophet ﷺ, he didn't reject it, but he ate it. Now somebody may ask, is it obligatory upon us to research now, look into it? And the answer is no, the Prophet didn't look into it. He just took the food and he ate it. Unless, Ibrahim rahimahullah mentions, unless there's like a dalil, a very strong indication that this something in of itself could be haram, then you can maybe look into it, right? But otherwise, normally, you don't. All of it is haram. So then he comes under this point. That's the thing. To say that somebody's money is 100% everything haram is difficult to say. So that's if to come under this category, خلاص, as we said. And the fifth scenario, أنت تعرف أن هذا بعينه حرام, is that whatever money you are getting, you know, forget the rest of the money, but specifically that thing that you are getting is haram. Right? So specifically what you're getting right now, that object, money, whatever it is, that thing in of itself is haram. So all of his money might be halal, or might be a mixture of halal and haram, might be most haram, all of that doesn't matter. We know that this particular object, what he's giving to you right now, that object is haram. Okay? Then, some ulama have quoted ijma', it's not allowed. So you see a difference between the previous ones and this. The previous ones, you just look at the money, he's giving you food right now, or he's giving you a £10 right now, whatever it is, yeah? That is just part of his general money, so right? But you know now, in front of you, he just robbed the guy in the street and he goes, oh, here you go, yeah? You know, this tenner he's giving to you right now, right, is, this object in of itself is haram, yeah? Then that is not allowed. And that's why it comes to an issue as well, which is, what if you're working in a supermarket? They sell haram stuff, Tesco's, and they sell alcohol. The ulama say, as long as you're not dealing with the alcohol itself, you're not selling it or putting it on the shelves or anything like that, if you're working in a different department, it's fine. Because you're not dealing with it in of itself. Yeah, it'll come on the category. That mean all of his money is haram? It would depend. It depends which category it comes into, as we explained. Inshallah. No. Okay. Yeah, the question, do you research about a person's money? We just answered that. If a person has haram money, how does he get rid of it? If it is all purely haram, then he does not give it in charity, but in something which will benefit the people generally, such as building a well or a path. So let's say you got money, you know that this money, you got £100, this is haram. You've made it from haram income. Now you want to get rid of it. Because it's haram money, you don't give it into something like a masjid. Right? Even the Kuffar of Quraysh, when they rebuilt the Kaaba, they never use any haram money. Right? But you could give it in charity in the sense that if it's something not like Islamic, but something which is just a general benefit for the Muslims, a well or a pathway or something like that. But not something like Islamic, like building a masjid. And we've got the delil over there. What if his money is mixed with halal and haram? Then he works it out or estimates to the best of his ability and he gives that money in charity or for something that will benefit the Muslims generally. So if you know, not all of your money is haram, but like half of it is, or like 20% is, whatever it is, estimate and give that in charity now.
So if someone has a bank account and they get interest into that bank account, can they just give it as, should they just give it as
No, it won't count as zakah. But you can give it here, as we said, yeah.
Yeah. They could give it like this without me losing the use for my shirts.
What?
They could give it to like, they give it as zakah, not with the intention of zakah. But like they give it to charity and say,
No. If that charity is going to do something like a general benefit in the worldly affairs, yeah, give that to it. But it's not counting as zakah. Don't use the word zakah. Sadaqah, as charity, but in that. Oh, no. Okay, back to ambiguous matters. Why are some rulings ambiguous? Okay, now why we're not going to talk about we're not talk about the wisdom behind it. We're going to get to the wisdom, but like, why do we have? Why don't we just know the answer? Why can't you just work out the answer? And the reason is because there's a lot of things involved when it comes to when it comes to knowing an Islamic ruling. There's a lot of research involved. Now, a very good book to know this is by Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, titled رفع الملام عن أئمة الأعلام. رفع الملام عن أئمة الأعلام. In English, I think it's translated to removing the blame from the scholars. And he basically talks about a number of reasons why scholars differed. And one thing he established in there is that all the Imams never intentionally went against the Quran and Sunnah, but they did the best that they could. And he said maybe the reason is that Hadith not reached them. So you've given a ruling, it might go against the Hadith, but the other Hadith you don't know. You don't know about the Hadith. Especially back in the day, right? It's not you can do like a quick Google search and every Hadith is going to come up. You have to travel. Maybe the Hadith didn't come to the area that you're in. Maybe it came to you, but it came through a weak chain of narration, so you didn't accept it, or you thought it to be weak. Or maybe it came to you and you saw it to be authentic, but you understood it in a different way, right? So Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he mentions all of these different reasons, even though the reasons he mentions are focused more on the angle of the dalil itself, the hadith, and reaching it or not. There are other angles as well. Maybe in the future, if we go through that book, we can discuss it bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Now, another thing which is very important is these three things that I mentioned here. It's mentioned in Usul al-Fiqh, but I thought it's nice to just mention it, see if you guys understand it or not. We have three things, and all these three things they talk about this when they talk about ijtihad, right? When a scholar needs to give his independent ruling on an issue, he does this. There's three things that he does. And what's the job of a mujtahid? To do three things, or a mufti. One is takhrij al-manat, the second is tanqih al-manat, and the third is tahqiq al-manat. Takhrij al-manat is trying to extract the reason for the ruling. So there might be a ruling, this is haram. I'll give you a simple one. Alcohol is haram. What's the ruling? What's the reason? It intoxicates. So getting that reason out, obviously alcohol is an easy example, but getting that ruling out, that's what we call takhrij al-manat. Now, tanqih al-manat is very similar. This is where you get all of the possible ilal, all of the possible reasons, and slowly you get rid of the ones which cannot be the reason, and therefore you are left with the only reason which is suitable for that ruling. That's called tanqih al-manat. It's similar to the first one. Okay? So for example, when the Bedouin man who came to the Prophet ﷺ, saying that he had relations with his wife during the day of Ramadan, and the Prophet ﷺ told him about the kafara al-mughallaza, right? The heavy type of expiation. Yeah. Now, when is that ruling applied to somebody here? So the scholar will look. Is it because he's a Bedouin? Is it because he was old in age? Is it because he was black, white, short, tall? These are all different factors that are in the hadith. Okay? So they'll come, male or female, so they'll come and say, right, as for him being black or white, that doesn't matter, so we take that out. As for him being tall or short, that doesn't matter, we take it out. As for me, male or female, depending on the issue, sometimes that could be a factor. And some issues, no, men and women are the same, so it doesn't matter. So they'll do that for this hadith and say, no, the reason it's done here, the illah, is because you have relations in the day of Ramadan. So that's the ruling. That's called tanqih al-manat. And number 3, tahqiq al-manat. This is making sure that the new ruling that you're giving, that reasoning is actually there. So for example, I'll say, you come to me with a new drink, right? So you say, look, it's haram. I've said it's haram. Why? Because it's like alcohol. Now, this is the haqiqah. Maybe that drink, maybe I said it's haram. Shaykh Hadeeth comes along and he says, no, it's not haram. Right? Now, we're not necessarily differing on the ruling, but we're differing on just the application of it. Now, then we have to look at this drink. Does it intoxicate? Does it not intoxicate? I'm saying it intoxicates. He said it doesn't intoxicate. And you find after research that, mashallah, Hadeeth is correct and I'm wrong. So I say sorry to Hadeeth. And I say, you're the mufti now, you're the sheikh now. You can teach on the next lesson, inshallah. Right. So these are some things. Right. So as you can see, I just mentioned this just to show you. It's not as simple as picking up a hadith and that's it. Right. There's a lot of research that needs to be involved. Okay. What's the wisdom behind it? Why do we have things like this? Why has Allah decreed it so that we have things which are ambiguous? Why can't everything be straightforward? And this is to differentiate between those who are eager and sincere and those who aren't. Those who are eager, or differentiate those who are at the high levels from those who are at the lower levels. If everything was clear, then it's a lot more easier. But now, when it comes to ambiguous matters, right, a person who truly cares about his akhirah will leave it off. And a person who doesn't will say, no, it's not a big issue, let's just do it. Right. So far, what have we taken in the hadith? The halal is clear, the haram is clear, and between them are ambiguous matters. Then the Prophet said, لا يعلمهن كثير من الناس. Many of the people don't know it. The opposite understanding of this is some people do know it. So many people don't, but some people do. And who are the people that know? The people of knowledge. The ulama, the scholars. They know, because they've studied. And obviously, it may not be all of them, maybe one will know and another will not know. Right? But generally, the people of knowledge know. And hence, therefore, we go to them and we ask them for answers. As Allah says, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ ذِكْرٍ كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you do not know. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ said, لَا يَعْلَمُهُنَّ كَثِيرٌ. I've written here most, I'm going to change that. It's not most. It's many. Yeah, many people don't know. كثير, not أكثر. Awab, if it was أكثر, what type of word would that be? In Arabic. Ism tafdeel, but it's not ism tafdeel, is it? Just kathir, many people, or a lot of people, not most. Nonetheless, the meaning is, the Prophet didn't say nobody knows it. There are people that know it. So therefore, these ambiguous matters are mushtabih, nisbi. They are subjective. Some people will know, some people won't know. So what's obligatory upon us? If you don't know, if you know khalas, then it's not ambiguous for you. If you know the answer, then it's not ambiguous for you. You won't come under this. For you will become halal bayin, the clear halal, because you know the answer. Yeah? So you follow, even if it's not 100% you know, but like most likely it's an issue scholars differed, but you will believe this to be the truth according to the proofs, khalas. You come under that first category and you have to follow whatever you believe to be the truth. Yeah? Unless it's one of those issues where the khilaf is acceptable khilaf and it could have an effect on society, right? Then you just follow what the people are doing, right? Otherwise, you're the only. Let's say, for example, I'm trying to think of an example. There's a masjid, and I was going to say Rafa Aydin, but Rafa Aydin is quite clear. Who can think of an example? The masjid do a certain thing. You can say niqab or hijab. Let's say it's khilaf issue, yeah? And you believe it. It's a bit different. I can't think of an example off the top of my head right now. Like joining the feet in salah. Could be, na'am. The ulama differ. So if you go to a masjid, right? Not even Hanafi masjid, it's like a normal masjid, right? But you know by doing that it's gonna cause you issues or whatever. So khalas, you just follow the people, it's accepted and opinion, and you just follow the people are doing it. This masjid, you do feet to feet, so khalas, you do feet to feet with the people. Even if you don't believe it's obligatory, you do it. Right? No. Yeah. La amin Allah, that's clear. That's clear from the Sunnah now. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, فَمَنِ اتَّقَى الشُّبُهَاتِ اسْتَبَرَأَ لِدِينِهِ وَعِرْضِهِ. Whoever avoids ambiguous matters clears himself in regards to his religion and his honor. وَمَنْ وَقَعَ فِي الشُّبُهَاتِ وَقَعَ فِي الْحَرَامِ. But he who follows into doubtful matters falls into that which is haram. In this section, the Prophet ﷺ, he mentions two types of people. The first type of people are those, when they come across these ambiguous matters, stay away from them. What have these people done? They have done that which is better, and therefore they have protected their religion and their honor. Religion, by not falling into that which is haram. We're going to talk about how you can fall into haram. And also the honor, let's say you're doing something which could be halal, could be haram, but people see you doing it, they're going to start speaking about you. Right? Even if what you're doing, sometimes even if the thing's halal, but it's just not people used to, they start speaking about you, right? So you should stay away from it because it's a means of protecting your honor and your religion. And that's why some of the Salaf, they said, مَنْ عَرَّضَ نَفْسَهُ لِلتُّهَمْ فَلَا يَلُومَنَّ مَنْ سَأَ بِهِ الظَّنِّ. That if somebody exposes himself to be into a situation where he could be accused of things, then he shouldn't blame anyone if somebody has a bad thought about him. And if you're always hanging around with druggies on the street, and somebody comes along and says, look, this guy is a druggie, right? You have no one to blame but yourself. You're chilling with them on the street, right? Obviously, somebody could have a good intention, give them da'wah, whatever the case may be, right? And he might not be indulging in whatever they're indulging in, but nonetheless, you have to be wary of that. People might see him, and because of that, people may have, they start speaking about his honor. There's something which you have to think about. The second type of people are those who do that which is ambiguous. The Prophet ﷺ said, these people will وَقَعَ فِي الْحَرَامِ, fall into haram. These people fall into haram. How does a person who does something which is ambiguous fall into haram? One of two ways. Either because, like we said, it's ambiguous, could be halal or haram, it ends up being haram. Maybe he does 10 things which are ambiguous. 5 are halal, but the other 5 are haram. The ambiguous, he doesn't know, so he's falling into that which is haram. Or number 2 is that if he starts to get complacent with things which are ambiguous, that becomes a stepping stone for him to eventually do those actions which are haram. Right? So you start off by doing things, it's okay, ulama differ, it's fine, it's not an issue. So you let your guard down. That's how shaitan enters. And then eventually, you do things which are haram, and you say, yeah, but it's a minor thing, it's fine, Allah forgive me. And then you just open the door. So it becomes a stepping stone. That's why some of the ulama would say, al-ma'asi baridul kufr. Sins are the pathway to kufr. Because you start at something small, then it just builds and it builds and it builds, and it just gets worse and worse. Some of the Salaf had said, or some of the ulama have said, may Allah have mercy upon the slave who protects himself from backbiting. May Allah have mercy upon the slave who protects himself from backbiting. And there's also a story of Anas radiallahu anhu, where he went to Jum'ah once, and he got late. And he saw the people returning, leaving the masjid. So he's walking towards the masjid and people are walking out. Right? فَاسْتَحْيَا, so he became shy, and he entered into a place where no one could see him. Basically hid, so the people don't see him. And then he said, مَنْ لَا يَسْتَحْيِي مِنَ النَّاسِ لَا يَسْتَحْيِي مِنَ اللَّهِ. Whoever does not have shyness from the people, does not have shyness from Allah. Now that doesn't mean he was doing it for the sake of other than Allah. Right? He just, the narration doesn't mention, but whatever the reason may be, he just got late that day, it happens. Right? Or he may have prayed in another masjid and he's walking to this masjid. But now, it's long, explaining to every single individual person. And you won't be able to if there's so many people, especially after Jum'ah. So to protect his honor, he just hid. No one sees him, no one's going to think about him, and then he just went later. So that is from the fiqh of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. And I've got a lot of statements here. Some of the Salaf would say, whoever exposes himself to accusations, then do not blame the one who has evil thoughts of you. That's the one that I mentioned. The Salaf would leave off permissible actions out of fear of falling into haram. So we're talking about if you see something ambiguous, what would the Salaf do? They'll stay away from it. Why? Not because that thing itself was haram, but because out of fear what it could lead to. Some of the Salaf would say sins, people of knowledge would say sins are the path to kufr, what I mentioned. The Sharia is a fortress. So you give this example a lot, that like your nawafil prayers, that's your fortress. If you always preserve them, then you're going to preserve your obligatory prayers. But if you give up on your nawafil, and only thing you have left is your obligatory prayers, it's very easy for shaitan to attack you from your obligatory prayers. But if you're so strict on your nawafil, if anything happens to your nawafil, one day you get late for your nawafil, you're going to get that time for salah. But if you get late for salah, you miss the salah, for example. There's a dalil in the religion as well, which is used. It's a secondary dalil. Also the primary ones is Quran, Sunnah, Ijma' and Qiyas. From the secondary adillah is something called Saddu al-Dhara'i'. Saddu al-Dhara'i'. Closing the paths. And Imam Malik would use this a lot. If something could lead a person to something which is haram, Imam Malik would give the ruling that thing in of itself is haram. So something is halal, but it could lead to something which is haram. Imam Malik would say the halal thing, he would say it's haram. Why? Sadd al-dhara'i'. Because if a person ends up doing it, it will lead to something, it will take him to that which is haram. So to protect the religion like that, he would do so. And that's, even in Kitab al-Tawheed, we'll study some chapters, the Prophet ﷺ was very strict on certain things. Right? Even, for example, going to the grave to worship Allah. Going to a grave to worship Allah. It's dispraised. Why? It's not shirk in of itself. You're worshipping Allah, you're not worshipping the grave. But why are you going there? And it can lead to a person having a belief, or it can lead to shirk. So therefore, we don't allow it. The Sharia doesn't allow it. Why? This dalil. Sadd al-dhara'i'. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, the slave does not reach the level of the muttaqeen until he leaves off that which there is no problem, out of fear of that which does have a problem. Until you leave off something which is halal out of fear of falling into haram. Al-Hasan said, at-taqwa remains with the muttaqeen as long as they leave off a lot of halal out of fear of haram. Sufyan ibn Uyayna, he said, a slave will attain the reality of iman until he places for himself a barrier between halal and haram, and until he leaves off sins and what resembles it. And as long as the person does that, then he will always have iman. Now, before we move on, there's something which is very important. This whole religion, if you want to summarize the rulings of the whole religion, is one thing. The religion comes to bring benefit and increase as much benefit as possible, and to remove harms and to get rid of them as much as possible. As Ibn Sa'idi said, وَالدِّينُ مَبْنِيٌ عَلَى الْمَصَالِحِ فِي جَلْبِهَا وَدَرْءِ لِلْقَبَائِحِ. We're going to study this poem level 2 inshallah. But the religion is based upon masalih, bringing benefits. فِي جَلْبِهَا, and bringing it, وَدَرْءِ لِلْقَبَائِحِ, and removing things which are harms basically. And from there's something in the religion known as al-daruriyat as-sittah. Now some say khamsa as well, which is no problem, but you can say sittah. Some say 5, but we'll do 6. The 6 necessities, meaning, again, if you want to summarize the religion, there are 6 things that the religion has come with to protect. Any ruling in the Sharia, you can put it into one of these 6 categories. The first is hifdhud deen, to preserve your religion. Why is shirk not allowed to preserve your religion? And from the hadith is this hadith over here. The Prophet said, who stays away from ambiguous matters, he will protect his religion. Number 2, preserve life. Hifdhu an-nafs. For example, if you're about to die and there's nothing for you to eat or drink except alcohol, then you're allowed to have a few sips to keep you alive, right? Why? Because the religion has come with this, to preserve life. It's not here to destroy life, it's here to preserve life. Number 3, hifdhul ird, to preserve honor. This mentioned in this hadith, right? If you stay away from ambiguous matters, you preserve your honor, your religion and your honor. For example, the Prophet was walking once with his wife, Safiya radiallahu anha. Some Sahaba were walking, and the Prophet said, "Innaha Safiya." Verily, she is Safiya. And they said, oh, we're not going to, oh, Messenger of Allah, we're not going to think bad about you. Then the Prophet said, verily shaitan, he runs between the veins of the sons of Adam, like blood does. Right? Meaning shaitan can whisper to anyone. So the Prophet clarified, look, I'm not working with a random woman, I'm working with my wife. Right? Why did the Prophet say that? To preserve his honor. So some people turn around and say, look, I don't care what the people think. Right? I'm just going to do whatever I want, I don't care what the people think. That is right and that is wrong. If the people are doing something which is clear-cut haram, right, and let's say shirk, and they're forcing you to do it, and you don't do it, and you don't care what they're going to say, that's fine. As long as, obviously, there's a general ruling, you have to look at the situation and don't do mannerisms and so on. But generally, right, look at Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he was a young child, and they tried to make him commit shirk, and he would say no, and they would go out to celebrate the festivals, and he stayed back. Right? That is preserving. That is when it's okay to say, I don't care what people think. And you're firm upon the truth and you don't care what the people think. But from another side, in things which, like what we're talking about, is very important for a person to preserve their honor. Right? Imagine me, for example, I'm going to a place, might not be haram in of itself, but it's a place where druggies normally always go, or people that want to do haram always go. And I'm seen there. People are going to start talking. And then what happens? No one's going to come to the lessons. Like, I don't trust this imam. Yeah? So, your honor is very important. Or some of you brothers, Allah barik, want to get married. Right? If you're not protecting your honor, no father's going to give their daughter to you, are they? Right? Write that one down. Number 4. Hifzul mal, to preserve wealth. To preserve wealth. So the rulings, and why is riba haram? To preserve wealth. Right? And stealing is not allowed, to preserve a person's wealth, and so many other rulings. Number 5, hifzul nasab, to preserve intellect. Sorry, hifzul aql, to preserve intellect. Why is alcohol not allowed? To preserve your intellect. And number 6, hifzul nasab, to preserve lineage. Why is zina haram? Not only for honor, but also for lineage as well. So you know who the father is. And so on. So these 6 necessities, any ruling in the religion, you can bring it back to one of these 6. And these are known, it's more famously known as al-daruriyat al-khamsa, the 5. But some ulama mention 6, so I just mentioned all 6. The one which is extra is normally the honor one. Either the honor, lineage, or honor. Someone put honor and someone put lineage instead. No. And we've got a point here that the religion, subhanAllah, as you can see, has come with everything. Anything that you need, the religion has talked about. And that's what Abu Dharr radiallahu anh said. There's not even a bird flapping its wings in the sky, except that we know some ruling regarding it. And that's how some of the Jews came to the Prophet Jews or non-Muslims, they came to some of the Sahaba and saying that, well, your Prophet has told you everything, even how to go to the toilet. So yes, he has, and they mentioned some of the rulings. So the religion has come with everything, subhanAllah. Just to finish off the hadith, the Prophet now gives an example. He's staying away from ambiguous things. Like a shepherd who goes around his boundary. Let's say he's got a boundary. This is his field. And when he's grazing his sheep or his flock, instead of doing it in the middle, he goes right on the edge. What's going to happen? One sheep gets excited, what's going to do? Jump over. And it's going to be in the land of the other person. It's going to be a problem. Yeah? So that's what it is. When you're playing around with things which are ambiguous, that's what's going to end up happening. That's why the Prophet said you're going to fall into haram. Right? So maybe for example, we could say, we said 2 ways you can fall into haram, right? Either eventually fall into haram. So all that time, nothing's happening. Eventually, there might be one sheep that just jumps over, or whichever animal there is. Or you yourself will fall into actually something which is haram. Maybe there's a part of the boundary which goes in and out a little bit. You don't realize. But because you're playing around with it, you're going to end up, without realizing, falling into haram. Right? So that's like a physical example where you can see somebody's going to fall into that. And then the Prophet says, "Ala wa inna likulli malikin hima, ala wa inna hima Allahi maharim." Just like every king has his own boundaries, yani his own rulings. And the rulings of Allah are those things which He has made haram. The rulings of Allah are those which He has made haram. And this shows how the Prophet teaches, because he will give a ruling and then he gives examples as well. And that makes it easier for a person to understand. And in the ending of the hadith, talks about the importance of the heart. And the Prophet says that there's a morsel of flesh in the body. If that morsel of the flesh, morsel of flesh of the body is rectified, then the rest of the body is rectified. And if it is corrupt, then the rest of the body is corrupt, and that is the heart. And that's why they say the king of the body is the heart, and the rest of the limbs are like troops, the army. And it's only going to do whatever the heart commands them to do. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will look at our hearts. The Prophet said that Allah does not look at your outer appearance or the amount of wealth that you have, but He looks at your heart and your actions. And your actions are a product of what is in your heart, hence it is mentioned first. So we need to strive to have a sound heart. As Allah says on the Day of Judgment, nothing will benefit us إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ, except for the one who comes with a sound heart. And a sound heart, the ulama explain, a lot of people mention it should be free from jealousy and these type of things, which is without a doubt part of the meaning. But a sound heart is generally that which is sound and safe from everything which is displeasing to Allah. And the greatest thing is shirk. And then innovations. And major sins. And minor, shirk, major shirk and minor shirk. Innovations. And then major sins and minor sins. And we've talked a lot about this, before we talked about it in the first principle of Ta'azim al-Ilm, saying we need to protect the heart from doubts and desires. And we talked a lot about this, so I'm not going to talk a lot about it again. What do we have to protect the heart from? Mentioned it: major shirk, minor shirk, innovations, major sins, minor sins, doubts, desires, and so on. Page 14, refuting the sinners who say at-taqwa is here. There's a hadith, Prophet ﷺ, we're going to take it. But the Prophet ﷺ said, at-taqwa ha-huna, at-taqwa ha-huna, at-taqwa ha-huna. Taqwa is here, taqwa is here, taqwa is here. Thrice pointing at his heart. So some would say, look, we talked about it in Iman, that Iman is in my heart. Don't worry about the actions that I'm doing. Iman is over here. We already refuted it from that angle. We talked about it before in Iman, and we mentioned all the ayat. But even this hadith itself is a refutation, because the Prophet ﷺ said that the heart, if that is sound, then the rest of the body will be sound. And if you're doing actions which go against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can't turn around and say your heart is sound and perfect, because if it was, it would show on your limbs. It would show on your limbs. So nobody can say, I'm doing this haram thing, but don't worry about my iman's perfect. La. Or it's very, very high, whilst you're clearly sinning. Right? Rather, the heart and the limbs are connected. The heart and the limbs are connected. And Ibn Uthaymin rahimahullah also mentioned the fa'idah, which talk about in books of Aqidah and so on. What do we use to think and to ponder? Is it our intellect or is it the heart? Right? And the ulama Ahlul Sunnah, they mention that it's the heart. Ibn Uthaymin rahimahullah mentions this as well. Okay? Like Allah says, do they have قُلُوبٌ يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا, hearts that they ponder over. That's why looking after the heart is the most important thing. That's where the origin of all of your actions come from. How does a heart think? Allahu A'lam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't explain that. Okay? And obviously it has a connection with the aql as well. But the point being is that we have to protect our heart, make sure it's, the Prophet said, every time you do a sin, a black dot goes in there until it becomes fully black and hardened, and nothing benefits it. We need to stay away from that type of heart, so that it's a pure heart or a clean heart, so that it can benefit us. When ayat are recited, we are affected. It reminds us of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so on. Just right at the end, the importance of tawheed in rectifying the hearts. I'm just going to read a part of Ibn Rajab's explanation of this hadith. You don't need to write it whole down, you can summarize it. But Ibn Rajab rahimahullah, when he explains it, look at the way he explains it. He talks about qalb salim and so on, and later on he says, when he mentions qalb salim, he says, فَالْقَلْبُ salim. So therefore, the sound heart is هُوَ السَّالِمُ مِنَ الْآفَاتِ وَالْمَكْرُوهَاتِ كُلِّهَا. It's the one which is free and sound from all disliked actions. وَهُوَ الْقَلْبُ الَّذِي لَيْسَ فِيهِ سِوَى. And that is the heart which has nothing in it except mahabbatillah, the love of Allah, وَمَا يُحِبُّهُ اللَّهِ, and what Allah loves, وَخَشْيَةُ and the fear of Allah, وَخَشْيَةُ مَا يُبَاعِدُ مِنْهُ, and fear of that which takes you further away from Allah. فَلَا صَلَاحَ لِلْقُلُوبِ حَتَّى تَسْتَقِرَّ فِيهَا. So there's no rectification for the heart until it is cemented in there. Ma'rifatullah, knowing Allah. وعظمته, and His greatness. ومحبته, and loving Him. وخشيته, and hate and fearing Him. ومهابته, and His respect. ورجاؤه, and hoping in Him. والتوكل عليه, and having reliance upon Him. وتمتلئ من ذلك, and your heart is full of all of this. وهذا هو حقيقة التوحيد, and this is the reality of Tawheed. وهو معنى, and it is the meaning of لا إله إلا الله. So therefore there is no rectification for the hearts until its deity becomes the deity that you worship, and that you know, and that you love, and that you fear, and that is Allah alone. He has no partner. Then he quotes Al-Hasan al-Basri, who says, مَا نَظَرْتُ بِبَصَرِي, I have not looked with my eyes. وَلَا نَطَقْتُ بِلِسَانِي, nor have I spoken with my tongue. وَلَا بَطَشْتُ بِيَدِي, nor have I moved my hand. وَلَا نَهَضْتُ عَلَى قَدَمِي, nor have I gone on my feet. حَتَّى أَنظُرَ عَلَى, until I look. عَلَى طَاعَةٍ وَمَعْصِيَةٍ, is it a act of obedience or disobedience? فَإِنْ كَانَ طَاعَةً, if it is act of obedience, تَقَدَّمْت, I would go forth. وَإِنْ كَانَ مَعْصِيَةً, and if it is a sin, تأخرت, I will stay back, meaning not do it. And Ibn Rajab comments and he says, فَهَؤُلَاءِ الْقَوْمُ لَمَّا صَلُحَتْ قُلُوبُهُم, these are people, when their hearts became rectified, فَلَمْ يَبْقَ فِيهَا إِرَادَةٌ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ, and there was no intention or want for anything except Allah, or for anything other than Allah, of Allah alone. صَلُحَتْ جَوَارِحُهُم, their actions and their limbs were also rectified. فَلَمْ تَتَحَرَّكْ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ, so they will not even move, a body part will not even move except for the sake of Allah. وَبِمَا فِيهِ رِضَاهِ, and for that which pleases Allah. وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ. And with that, alhamdulillah, I believe now we have finished this hadith. Inshallah, next week, on Thursday, inshallah, we will take hadith number 7, which is short, so inshallah, shouldn't be difficult to memorize. And we'll take hadith number 8 as well. We'll take 7 and 8 together, inshallah. So those who are memorizing, try to memorize both. I did mention that last week as well. So inshallah we'll take hadith number 7 and 8 on Thursday بإذن الله تعالى. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.